Hi girls, Mr. Gilmore here, and we are back with some more factorization work here. So what will we need to know in order to be able to do this particular lesson? So this is our second lesson, 21st of April. What we'll need to do is we'll need to know how to factorize a simple expression before we even begin this, okay? So I'm making this video with the assumption that you understood lesson 1. If you didn't understand lesson 1, if you've given it an attempt and you haven't been able to figure it out, you need to contact me early, okay? Now, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be focusing on how we would factorize an expression by grouping them. So this obviously is us taking our first step towards quadratics. Again, this is revision for most of you. So this shouldn't be too difficult. It might be tough for some of you. It's totally fine if it is tough for you, but let me know and I'll help you as much as I can. Now, so our aim is to go from a kind of 2ab plus 2ac plus 3bx plus 3cx to brackets b plus x by brackets 2a plus 3x. So you can just look at it and see this looks tidier. This looks so much nicer than this does. And we'll just be learning how to be able to do that. So I'm going to zoom in here and we're just going to look at this example first, okay? And the first trick you need to know is that you are still grouping the same way we did. So you're still factorizing expressions, but this time you're factorizing two separate expressions. So this doesn't have common factors with these, and these don't have common factors with these. Or they do have like one or two, but they're not as clean, okay? So let's group these up first, okay? So we're going to group this into this group and group it into this group. So our first move is to factorize this expression, and then we'll factorize this expression. So what are the highest common factors, HCF, of this section here? Well, okay, we've got 2ab plus 2ac, so we can see, wait a second, 2a will divide both of those. And inside the bracket, so 2a multiplied by b, so b, and 2a multiplied by c, so plus c. Okay, now let's look at this second grouping here, okay? So again, we're going to go, okay, what are the common factors? Well, we can go, okay, 3 is a common factor for both of them, and x is a common factor for both of them. So the highest common factor here, it's going to pop in a little plus here, is going to be 3x, isn't it? So we can see 3x divides this, 3x divides this. 3bx divided by 3x, well, that's just going to give us b. 3cx divided by 3x, well, that's just going to give us c. Okay, now, how do we know if we've done this right? Well, we'll know we've done this right because these two sections here, the parts in the brackets, they should have common factors, okay? So you should see the same one here and the same one here. So these two have to be the same. If they're not the same, you know you've done something wrong. You need to go back, have a look over it, okay? Don't just continue on if you've gotten different values inside these brackets. You need to go back, you need to have a look over that, okay? Now, if we have the same factors here, we can kind of treat this like it was some kind of weird number, okay? So let's just imagine that these two are the same, and we're going to just say c, that b plus c equals some z, okay? So we're just going to say b plus c equals some z. And we won't do this for every equation, but I'm just doing this as an example for now, just so that you can kind of go, okay, so in that case then, 2a z plus 3x z, right? That's going to be the same as z by 2a plus 3x. I haven't given myself enough space here, but I'll just work across here, okay? And that's going to be the same. So we're going to substitute back in the b plus c. So we'll go, okay, wait a second, b plus c, and we're just going to give these brackets just to make it easier. Brackets, brackets. Okay, so we've gotten our correct answer. So we can go straight from this point to this point. We don't actually have to show this work. I'm just showing this work so you girls kind of have an idea as to what my reasoning is, why I'm doing it this way. and how this step goes straight to this one. So let's look at a few more examples, and then I'll give you girls some work. So in this one here, we've already got ourselves already to this first step, okay? So with these, we're going to have two major steps. We're going to have our first step, which is going to be factorize into groups. And then we're going to have our second step here. I've written factorize into groups terribly there. I do apologize for that. Second step here is kind of what we call removing the common factor. So all we mean by remove common factor is that we're just doing this step, okay? So we're just kind of grouping them off, okay? So let's look at this equation here. Let's look at this expression. X by y plus z plus y by y plus z. Well, we can see, wait a second, these two values are the same, aren't they? So we can immediately go, and we can go, okay, that equals, I'll redo that equal sign. That equals y plus z by x plus y, okay? So because we've got the same common factors, we can just group off these two kind of almost coefficients. Now, they're not coefficients because they're not numbers, but almost coefficients of these two values here, okay? Let's look at another one. So let's look at one where we don't have it already grouped off for us. And again, these examples are actually some of the questions I'm going to give you. So again, if you haven't looked at this video, I'll know because you'll have gotten these questions wrong. So, common factors here. What's the highest common factor between ax and ay? Well, that's a, obviously. So we can go, okay, a by x plus y. And now again, we look at these, we go, okay, what's the highest common factor of these two? Well, that's b. So we've got b by x plus y, okay? And now we just factorize that again. So a plus b, bracket, bracket, and x plus y. So again, we're only doing two steps. We are factorizing them into groups, and then we're dealing with that highest common factor at the end. And you know what? I'm actually going to change this here just so that it's x plus y by a plus b, just so that I'm doing it the same way each and every time. You'll see that a plus b by x plus y is the same as x plus y by a plus b because these are what we call commutative multiplication. So let's look at another one here. So now we're going to start dealing with some negative numbers, not hugely different, dealing with these negative numbers. So looking at this, well, what's the highest common factor here? Well, it's clearly c. And what's the highest common factor here? Well, it's clearly 2, okay? So going into our groups, we're going to see, okay, c by a minus b. And again, I don't know what just happened there. And then 2 by a minus b. Sweet, we've gotten the same common factor. So we can just group that off again. So it's going to be a minus b by c plus 2. And now I'm going to look at one final case. So you can see, okay, with negatives, sometimes you will find you might need to have like a negative as your common factor, highest common factor of one of these. If you do, then you can plug a negative in there and there'll just be a negative there. So imagine this was minus 2a plus 2b. Then you would have a negative 2 here, and then you'd have a negative 2 here. It wouldn't be a huge change. It would just be slightly different. Okay, so our last example is where you might immediately go, wait a second, what's a common factor for these two? So what we're going to have to do in this case is we're going to have to actually move some of these values around. So I'm going to go, okay, the only factors for 9 is 3, right? So it can only be divided by 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the 9 so it's next to the 3a here, okay? So this is slightly different. We have to reorganize. And sometimes you will have to reorganize, sometimes you won't. Most of the time you won't. But I just wanted to have a look at an example like this, just so that we're all going, okay, there are situations where this doesn't work out perfectly. Minus 3b plus ab. Okay, these have a common factor, but we want to have, if we're going to have the a first, when we turn these into brackets, when we factorize by groups, we're probably going to want to have an a first here as well. So I'm also going to just reorganize them a little bit more, and I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to put that positive ab first, and I'm going to put that minus 3b at the very end, okay? Now when we factorize by groups, we can go, okay, 3 and 3, b and b. Okay, so we can go, okay, we can factorize that by groups. We can go 3 by a minus 3 plus b by a minus 3. Sweet, we have gotten the same common factor. Now, something like this, sometimes it's going to take you 1 or 2 attempts to figure out what the common factor is. I'm not going to give you many questions like this. I think I'm only going to give you 1 or 2, one of which will be this question. And this is about as tough as factorizing by groups is going to get for you girls, okay? And then finally, we're just going to go, okay, let's group these off and go, okay, we've got a common factor here. So we've got a minus 3 by 3 plus b. Sweet. So we've gotten this all answered out. We've gotten a huge amount of maths done within this video. Like, you can see it all here, but you can always rewind. You can always pause. I would strongly recommend pausing regularly and working through some of these questions yourself. Even if you just paused at a certain line and then attempted the next line and then unpaused, it can actually be really, really useful to you as well. So, what is going to be our homework? Probably the most important thing of all. So, let's look at pages 56 and 57. And let's do questions 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 15, 17, 21, 25, 29, 37, and 39. Now, I know that seems like quite a lot. Remember, 4 of these questions I've already done for you in this video, so you will have to keep an eye out for the questions I've given an example for. Okay, girls? Fantastic. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow in our kind of online session. Okay? So remember that. I'll be reminding you in the email as well. Thank you.